For lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone, the flowers appear on the earth, the time of the singing of birds is come, and the voice of the turtle is heard in our land.
It's the Metro. I'm Robin Vincent.
And I'm Tia Graham. And for those who know that was the late Tigers announcer Ernie Harwell reading the Song of Solomon 2:11-12. Ernie would start every spring training broadcast with this Bible verse. And while it does not feel like spring, for many Detroit Tigers fans, it was the first sign of warmer days on the way. Days being soaked in the sun at the old Tiger Stadium or Comerica Park. The Tigers started preseason baseball in Lakeland, Florida, having 2 wins in their first 2 games. Their game has been rained out today, but the team will play tomorrow at 1:05. Taking the field to kick off spring training for our listeners is a member of the Metro's team, producer Jack Philbrandt. Jack, thank you so much for putting this together. What do the Tigers mean to you?
The Tigers mean so much to me, to be honest. I was even thinking last season when the Tigers were going on their crazy run, just like how the city was vibrating together. It felt like just everywhere I went, it was like high-fiving strangers I didn't know, talking about how good the Tigers were. And it really just brings me closer to the city and also to my family. My dad is a huge Tigers fan. He's actually in Florida and is going to be going to one of these spring training games, but he is so excited.
My aunts are the same. They might see each other. We might have to give them each other's numbers to coordinate so they can go hang out together.
He was offering to do some on-the-ground reporting for WDET, too, so we might...
Mr. Philbrandt. Reporting live, Mr. Philbrandt from Lakeland, Florida. I love that. So for you and for me, we both were around here during the time of the Tigers end of the regular season.
Tia, do you remember what it was like here at the station when the Tigers were going on?
It was buzzing. I mean, even seeing Quinn have a conversation about it, I was like, oh, shoot, Quinn's even interested. So I'm like, I know this is something happening. Yeah.
Quinn is not one to get excited over many things. He's very professional. He stays
pretty
level-headed.
He's really
so
level-headed.
He
loves marble, though.
Our reporters were keeping it very professional during the Tigers playoffs, too. I was hearing, like, the tonal shift of Russ McNamara screaming at the TV to delivering the news in the way he does professionally on the air. It was so much fun to see.
It was a great time to just be around a winning Tigers team again, especially when we already were kind of buzzing. We do know that we had a Lions team that's winning, and so it was feeling good. We're feeling great. You know, we're getting into these seasons, and now even having a Pistons team winning. I mean, this is feeling pretty good right now. You are listening to the Metro 101.9 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham.
And I'm Robin Vincent, pitching batting practice as we're getting ready to throw out the first pitch and dive into the start of the Detroit Tigers season. And we want to hear from you. What's your best Tigers memory? You can give us a call, 313-577-1019. Let's bring a caller into the conversation. Harold in Detroit, thanks for calling the Metro. What's your best Tigers memory?
Hello, and thank you for taking my call. I can remember, I think it was 1966 or 1967. My brother took me down to Tiger Stadium in my first game. I saw the New York Yankees, and the Tigers won a game.
Woo!
Danny McLean pitched for the Tigers. Mickey Mantle didn't play that day. Mm-hmm. So that was back in either 1966 or 67. That was my first game. I've been a Tiger fan of my whole life.
I have a question for you, Harold. Were you going to see Mickey Mantle play, and were you disappointed he was not playing that day?
Not really. I was a young fan. I was basically happy to go to the game. I was happy to see Danny McLean, and then, I saw Willie Horton, because Willie Horton played Sandlot. He went to Northwestern High School, and he played for the West Side Cubs baseball team, and his manager was Ron Thompson. I played for the West Side Cubs, too, in baseball, so we played for the same Sandlot manager.
Harold, I used to cheer for the West Side Cubs. It's just like a generational thing. They were always around for us.
There you go.
Oh, man. And Harold, just a quick question. When you were in Corktown, you're a kid, you're with your brother, did you guys ever hear about folks sneaking into Tiger Stadium back then? And did you ever get a chance to do that? I always wanted to try.
No, I never did that. No. No.
Sure you didn't.
Wink, wink. Thank you so much, Harold, for calling us this afternoon. And if you are listening right now, which I know you are, you have Tigers memories, give us a call, 313-577-1019. Now, Robin, the Tigers have a very, very, very significant meaning to you.
I mean, yes, I'm not going to give it away. They do have a significant meaning. And I actually have the one and only my mom, Michelle Vincent, on the line to explain. Mom, the Metro's #1 listener and fan. Welcome to the Metro.
Hi, Robini. Hi, Tia.
Okay,
Hi.
so my mom just put my nickname on blast, which is Robini, meaning that comes from the era of Beanie Babies. And thanks a lot, Mom, because as you know, I have friends in Wyoming, in Colorado, and here who still they call me Robini because of that. So let's move on, Mom. So it was
Okay.
it was October 1968, and the Tigers had just won the World Series, and you were what, 18 years old? What were
I
you
was
doing?
18, yep. Well, I had just graduated from high school that year, and I was working in the Guardian building at a bank that's no longer in existence, the Bank of the Commonwealth. And it was an afternoon game. It was a Thursday, October 10th, 1968. The Tigers won, and all of the buildings downtown, all of the, office buildings just emptied out into the streets. People were throwing confetti. They were throwing, back in those days, the computer cards out of the windows of the tall buildings. It was a party, I think, probably like Detroit had never seen and has never seen. And it was just so exciting. Strangers were hugging each other, and it was the most friendly time I personally had ever experienced in Detroit.
Okay, so you ran down from the Guardian building, floor after floor, to get your steps in, and then what? What happened once you got out onto the street onto Griswold?
Kennedy Square had a large water feature. It was sort of like a pond. I was with a girlfriend, and we passed by this group of 3 or 4 men in suits, and I turned around and I made eye contact with one of them, and he smiled at me, and I looked away, turned back. He was still smiling.
Little flirting going on. Okay.
Yeah, a little flirting, and remember, I was only 18, so he looked very businesslike to me, but I still felt, he's
He's
quite
in your league.
looking. Yes, thank you. So he came up to me, and it seemed so out of character. He said to me, "I'm going to throw you into the water." And he said, "That would be fun." And I looked at him, and I thought, this guy's really, off here. So I said to him, "I dare you to do it." And he literally picked me up, took me to the edge of the water at Kennedy Square. And once it really looked like he was going to do it, 3 or 4 other men came to my rescue, running up, "Don't do that." And then someone pushed us both in. And I got so scared because I don't swim, and I didn't know it was only 3 feet deep. And the two of us stood up, we're dripping wet, got out of the water. And he looked at me and he said, "I really didn't mean for that to happen." He said, "We should actually go have something to eat." And I said, "Yeah, what restaurant's going to take us looking like this, dripping all over the place?" Well, we went to this restaurant called the Flaming Embers, which is no longer in existence.
To heat up because of its name.
Yes, yes.
Dry
to heat
up.
So we sat down at a table, and then I thought, there's a couple of gray hairs that I can see in his sideburns. So I thought, I bet this guy is married. And I said, "Get out your wallet and show me that you're not married." He said, "Well, how's that going to prove anything?" I said, "Well, there'll be pictures of kiddos in there if you're married." So he gets it out. There's no pictures of kids. So I relaxed over dinner. We really had a good conversation. And then it got to be later, 8:30 or 9, and I had come from the east side of Detroit on a bus, and the buses weren't running that frequently. So he said, "I'll drive you home." and red flags all over. Remember, I just had turned 18, just graduated high school. My mother, still those words in my head, don't ever get in a car with a stranger.
Yep.
You never know what's going to happen. So I thought there's no other way home, and there's no way I'm going to call my dad and explain this.
No.
So, right, I took the leap, got in the car. I figured, well, if I die, at least I had a great last night. But that didn't happen. He drove me home. He went in and met my parents. We made a date to have lunch the next day at the chic restaurant, and my parents really liked him. And then later, my sister told me after he had left, she said, you know what Mom said? She said that Michelle's going to marry that man.
And you did.
And I did. And we were married for 50 years. We had 3 children. Wow. And Robin, you are the baby. And to this day, I still call you Robini.
That's amazing.
Well, so the moral of the story here is that thanks to the Tigers, I exist.
Right. That's correct, Robin. You and your brother and sister. And it was actually me taking that risk because I could have just as easily said no, thank you.
I'm so glad you were daring then and now, Mom.
Thank you. And I have to say, it worked out pretty well. You know, we had a really long marriage, and obviously for, you know, your listeners, Paul passed away at the beginning of COVID.
Yep.
And so
Rest in
about
power.
5 years ago.
Rest in power, Dad. And thank you, Mom. I'm wondering if there are other callers out there who maybe had a love connection thanks to the Tigers or some other memorable moments. We definitely want to hear about those. The number is 313-577-1019. And Mom, thank you so much for always listening to the Metro and for sharing this cute and amazing story.
Go Tigers.
Coming up, we'll throw out the first pitch and take calls from you. What's your best Tigers memory? Who did you meet at a Tigers game? Maybe a lover, maybe a partner, a husband, a wife. The number is 313-577-1019. Stay with us. This is the Metro.
Welcome back to the Metro on 1019 WDET FM. And Robin, I just want a love story like that. I want a love story like your parents.
Oh, I know. It was back before social media and phones that we can hide, keep our faces glued to.
Gosh,
Yeah.
Just beautiful from Michelle.
Yes. Thank you, Mom. Thanks for calling into the Metro and sharing that story, which, I may have heard that story a few other times, but I never tire of hearing it. I feel like I get a new detail every time.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But you know what? It's time to play ball.
It is.
Yeah. Up to bat is Josh Tebeau. He's a teacher and basketball coach at Romeo Middle School and tries to go to as many Tigers games as he can. Josh is a Michigan native, but he never really attended games until a few years ago. And he picked an interesting time to show his devotion to the team. Since 2016, the Tigers hadn't had a winning record. In 2019, the team had only 47 wins and 114 losses.
Yikes.
Ouch, yeah. Yet last season, the Tigers went on a tear. At the halfway point, the Tigers had 47 wins and 50 losses. The odds of making the playoffs were not in the team's favor at all. Yet they ended the season with 86 wins and 76 losses and made it to the league divisional series, but lost to the Cleveland Guardians.
Now, let's bring Josh back to the plate. he had a third baseline seat to the Tigers' miraculous 2024 run. After sticking with them through thick and thin and horrible and embarrassing losses, Josh was invited onto the field to celebrate with them after they clinched a wild card spot. Here comes the first pitch. And it's a base hit for Josh Tebeau. Producer Jack Philbrandt recently talked to Josh about the Tigers' 2024 season and a team he's really excited about this year. Josh started the conversation talking about when his intense love for the Tigers began.
It was right when COVID was getting done, and there were not many fans there, but the fans that were there were like booing. They were booing Miguel Cabrera really bad because he was striking out a couple times, but I kept cheering for him, all pumped up, and the fans started to turn on me. They were like booing me and telling me to shut up and saying, "He can't hear you." You know, I was probably 15 feet away from the on-deck circle. He was facing the other way. He turned around and he pointed right at me for like 7 seconds straight. Was like, "Yeah, I can hear you." And all the other fans are like, "What on earth? Do you know him?" I'm like, "No, but they hear what we're saying, man. Let's not boo him if they're struggling. They're still the same human being at the end of the day." So I just started to realize that, especially for baseball, like the players can hear you. So I like to say positive stuff or goofy kind of funny stuff to keep good vibes going. And next thing I knew, it was amazing when they let me on the field and everything. So.
Yeah. I sat behind you a few times, Josh, last season, and your energy really enhanced my experience at the game, and I started getting into it too. I'm curious, what do you think of yourself as a fan in the environment? Do you kind of see yourself contributing to the outcome of the game in a way?
I mean, all fans can. I mean, it's called a home field advantage for a reason. But I do think for sure that it helps to, like, be positive and get pumped up. I think that, like, good energy breeds good energy, like positivity breeds more positivity, and that's basically what I'm going for, Some of the fans that sit near me are most of them seem to, like, love it and they're with it, but some of them hate it, and I understand it, Like, I'm not trying to be all wild and stuff. I'm just trying to be positive, and I don't know. I like to joke around and say a lot of goofy stuff to keep the players lighthearted. But like when a lot of people are booing, that's when I cheer the hardest or whatever. And I really love it when the fans near me pick up on the energy and they get all pumped up too. And I mean, it's great times when that happens,
Yeah, one of your famous chants is the torque chant, and you doing the chant got my dad doing it, me doing it, and so many people around us doing it too. What's it like when you have a chorus of people kind of join in your fun shenanigans at Comerica Park?
I mean, it's the best feeling in the world, honestly. I mean, certain times, like, the whole crowd will be following my lead at times, and they don't got to follow my lead. I just want them to be positive and supportive. But yeah, that torque chant is a fun one, you go torque, 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 and you get going, louder and louder. But usually, because Torque struggled a bit here and there, so the start of the game, he might, the first time he comes up, no one's doing the Torque chant with me, and it's like everyone's like, "What's wrong with this guy?" But then the next time, a few people are doing it, and Torque hears it, and maybe it helps him, maybe it doesn't. But when I went on the field, he told me, that's what all the players told me. They go, "We hear every single thing you say, and thank you." And that's all they said. So I don't know. I love it because I know that it helps the players to at least a little small degree, the smallest of degrees. It does help the team. And the more people that can do it with me, like, the better, That's what a home court advantage is. I always think about when the team's on the road, maybe they're struggling, and then they come home for a homestand. It's like, let's get them fired up,
Yeah. You had a kind of baseline seat to the Tigers' miraculous 2024 season. It was a slow start, but they got hot. And is there a moment last season where you kind of felt like, oh, something is changing here a little bit? We might take this farther than expected.
We kind of, like, right around the trade deadline, we were selling, and we sold Flaherty. We kept Skubal, so that was great. I went to that game, kind of did like a one-man protest, like praying to God, like, please don't trade Skubal, please don't trade Skubal. And then Sweetly got Flaherty back. But right after the trade deadline, we struggled for about a week, and then I asked my friends for sign ideas, and someone's like, make a playoff push sign. So I did, and it was kind of a joke at first. And then we got Kerry Carpenter back then. I do remember mid-August, right before Javi was out for the year, it was like seventh inning. I think we were down by 1 or 2, and it was real quiet, you know. And I remember being on top of the dugout and yelling like, we will win this game. And I said, it's not a matter of if, but who. And like the whole dugout heard me. Like you could hear a pin drop. And like next thing you knew, Javi hit a walk-off or hit a game winner in the 8th inning. And then by the time, I don't know, you know, it's so tough. By the time the end of August was rolling around, we come back for a homestand, and it was like supposed to be a rained-out game. I think it was against the Angels, and like there were barely anybody there. The game was supposed to start at 6:40. It didn't start till almost 10 p.m., and it was rainy. And I don't know. I just remember that game. I had my first sign that said, "Don't let the Tigers get hot," and the players kind of saw it and were laughing. And then next thing I knew, you know, we just got the momentum going, and momentum's a powerful thing, you know. So is good energy, you know, and that's all I'm going for. So,
how many games did you go to last year, Josh, and how many do you plan on getting to this year?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I'd say too many, or not too many, but just enough, you know. Like I went to every game I could. I always take it one game at a time. I'll like wake up, and if I feel like going, if I can find someone to go with, I'll do it, you know. So I was always taking that like a one day at a time, a one game at a time strategy, and I could almost always find someone to go with. But then after the trade deadline and once we started heating up in August, like barely anybody was going to the games at the start then, you know? So I would like get there early, go down to the bullpen, watch the pitchers warm up and do a bunch of goofy stuff. Like I read an article in the Free Press, I guess Tarek Skubal and Jake Rogers and a couple of the other pitchers, Casey Mize, they do like the USA Today crossword puzzle every day as like a, I don't know, a brain activity before the game. So I took like a big I took a crossword puzzle, I blew it up into a sign, I filled the whole thing out, acting like I was trying to complete the puzzle. So they're getting ready to warm up, and I'm like, hey, I need a 4-letter word that's a loud summer noise, you know, and I'm asking, you know, Jake Rogers and the bullpen coaches and them, and they're like, boom. You know, they're all, and so then I can see them behind the, there's like tinted glass where the bullpen is, where they all kind of hang out, and they're all back there cracking up laughing, but just getting good vibes going, getting good stuff going. So I forgot your original question. Oh, how many games I go to? I don't know how many games I'm going to go to. I'd love to go to all of them, but I'm not like rich by any means. I'm a school teacher, and I pretty much blew all my money on Tigers tickets and signs and stuff the past couple of years. But I take it one game at a time, and I'm trying to go to as many as possible, you know. I don't ever take off work, so I'm going to miss opening day. But I usually go the day after opening day, and we'll take it one game at a time after that, and I cannot wait.
I wanted to ask about your signs because when I see you at the game, you have a collection of signs. Do you have a arts and crafts pregame ritual when it comes to designing your signs?
That's a good question. Not really. I'll just think of ideas, and I'll write them down to myself, and then if or when I get any free time, I'll just make the sign. Down the stretch there, the one game they had me come in early to, like, film something for their social media thing, which I'm not really into, but I did, and it rained really bad that day. It was a day after we clinched, and they had me get there at, like, 9 in the morning. The game wasn't supposed to start till 1. It started at, like, 5 eventually. So I'm there for, like, 8 hours before the game, and then Bally puts me on TV for an interview, and I'm just like, I hadn't slept since the night before. I'm all going nuts, but my hands were just all blue and orange with all the markers from the sign. So I don't know. I don't really have a ritual. I love it when I think of, or when somebody can give me an idea of a funny sign, and like those are the best. You know, like I had some good ones for Skubal or for any of the players. You know, it's just I can tell it means a lot to the players when I take the time to do a stupid sign or whatever. Like Casey Mize has had some ups and downs, and I remember in August when he was trying to come off the injured list, might have been that game when it was really rainy. I was down by the bullpen when they're getting warmed up, and I'll wear like multiple jerseys to get the team going. You've seen me, you know, like the Torque jersey to get the Torque chant going. But I had a Mize jersey, and I held it up, and I could see his eyes light up. He's, yeah, you know. And then as soon as I got on the field, the whole team was super cool, but the ones that I had interacted with the most were like, man, we really appreciate it. So
Yeah, how'd that moment really come together of you ending up on the field after being there with the team pretty much the entire season?
Yeah, so it was that final week, and the odds were 0.2% in August, and then they went all the way up. And it was that last week, and we played Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Thursday was a day game. Scuba pitched. I missed it. I had to work. Wednesday, I was at the game, and a couple people from the Tigers workers, the social media people, were like, hey, can you come in early Saturday and film some stuff for us? So I'm like, okay. So I didn't think anything of it. And then Friday comes, and we clinched it, and the game ended, and the security guards were all like waving me down, and I was like, no way. And next thing I knew, I was on the field. But how did it happen? They told me the next day when I went in, they were like, hey, when did you find out we were going to let you on we were going to invite you on the field? I was like, I had no idea. And they're like, oh, we had it all planned out ahead of time. And I was like, oh, that's great. But it just kind of happened. I would cheer for the players. And like I said, most of the fans would get into it with me, but some of them would be like, oh, it's stupid, but whatever, man, you just got to be yourself. Like I had one of my best signs was Zach McKinstry is master of the universe, which is a stupid sign, but he's a proud Central Michigan grad. So obviously yelling, fire up, chips, getting the crowd all into it. And yeah, I don't know. I guess just all that positivity, or I was trying for positivity. A lot of it's just stupid. Everyone's like, what's this guy doing with all these signs and jerseys? The thing is, I'm not trying to make it about me whatsoever. And I understand it might look like that, but that's not what I'm going for. And like, it's just beautiful how it all worked out, because fans would say to me like, oh, why are you being like this? I'm like, I'm just trying to get the teams pumped up. If you don't want to be like this, it's fine. But I'm telling you, I think it helps a little bit. So why not do it?
Yeah, one thing I am hearing coming from you, Josh, is your passion and love for the Detroit Tigers. And one thing that I think fans don't think about is how that passion and love helps the players on the team. And it's really nice to kind of hear that from the guy saying like, yes, what you are doing, Josh, and the chorus of people that you are turning up in the fans, it is helping us get over the line and win.
Yeah, because I've been kind of doing the same thing for a couple years, and a couple years ago we're really struggling. I had a sign like, what if we win out? The back of the sign just said like, win today, But I was showing that around, and I know Riley Green did an interview in mid-August this year, right when we were starting to turn it around, and I read it online or in like the Free Press or Detroit News, and he said, what if we went out? And like the reporters were like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, it was just a sign I saw. But, you put the idea in their head, like basically you try to manifest good things into existence, and there's good and bad in the world. But I mean, if you're going to a baseball game, you're trying to have fun, and you're a baseball fan. Like it was just so beautiful how everything worked out this past year. So I couldn't be happier or more grateful.
What are you looking forward to this season when it comes to the Tigers?
I mean, somebody said we should get Bregman, Alex Bregman, to fill the hole at third base, and I understand the pros and cons of this, but I'm telling you, I love like every single dude in that locker room, every single one, like even the ones that are like in AAA that are probably not going to quite make it, like. Shout out to Akil Badu or someone like him, So I'm honestly happy that we didn't get Bregman, because, like, you know what? I'm a big Sherman guy. I'm a big Matt Vierling guy, Everybody, like Jace Young, like all of them. Like, I'm just real pumped up to see us grow and mature as a team, because, we were like the youngest team in the league by far last year, and it's just real fun to just see the growth. A light bulb went off in my head around August last year. I bought a Alex Faedo Florida Gators jersey, because I guess he pitched in the College World Series for them like 5, 6, 7 years ago. And he saw it and went nuts and was like showing the rest of the team like, hey, look at this guy. We're going to teach him the Gator chomp, Even when we called up like Jackson Jobe, like rest of the pitchers were walking from the dugout to the bullpen, and they were all pointing at me like, hey, look, there's that crazy guy. So anyways, I got some nice college jerseys going for this upcoming year. I got a Jake Rogers Tulane jersey, and a couple other ones like that. But who cares about my dumb jerseys? I don't know, man. We're looking really good. There's no reason we can't make the playoffs again. Hopefully we can keep the momentum we had going. And I'm just a big believer in our coaching staff, just our culture, Like everyone says, the clubhouse culture is through the roof, and I believe them, Like A.J. Hinch really did a good job of, like, preaching to the team, Chris Fetter, all the bullpen and all the hitting coaches, like, it's next man up. It's like you got to look out for the person next to you. And, like, there's not enough of that in the world today. Everyone's only worried about themselves or not looking out for the other guy. And the Tigers started doing that come August last year. Really, really great. It was just beautiful to see. So I can't wait to see it keep going on.
How does seeing the positivity of the Tigers team translate to you as a baseball coach, helping these young guys get introduced to the sport and play the sport?
I coach basketball.
Okay.
But I played baseball growing up and whatnot. But no, it's just beautiful. It's just like, I'm fortunate enough. I teach middle school and coach, and they're a real influential age where it's just great that, like, the life lessons that that have rubbed off on me from being around the Tigers, I can kind of put that toward the next generation, I am a firm believer in karma and the universe working itself out. And when things seem like they're great, they're not all as good as you think. And when things seem like they're, like, horrible, things aren't quite as bad as you think. But just trying to have kids keep a level head, being humble, unselfish, grateful. Everybody these days, I'm him, you're too little. It's like, it's not conducive toward being on a good team, like a team is stronger, can be stronger than the sum of its parts. And I hope that I try to tell the kids that I interact with that as well. But I know the Tigers got that going on, and I got some great kids that I get to teach and coach every day. So I could not be happier or feel more lucky, blessed, and grateful, for real. And I mean it,
Josh, do you have any rousing words for the team as they go into their 2025 season?
Wow, that's a tough one. I don't know. I guess don't let the Tigers get hot, but beware. Don't let the Tigers get hot at any moment. I love the grit, the gritty kitties, all that. It's all good stuff. Basically, I don't have it, but it is at a point now where I don't really even have to say anything. Like the whole team's already got this great rapport, which I did not necessarily whatsoever have a part of. I didn't really have a part of it, but I witnessed it, and I did help try to get them to be positive and unselfish and, keeping a good, happy-go-lucky, fun attitude. Like, they all got that. I love it. So I don't really got to say anything to them. It's like they already know. So basically, though, don't let the Tigers get hot.
That was producer Jack Philbranch talking with Tigers die-hard and possibly their number one fan, Josh Tebeau. Josh wasn't shooting with them in the gym, but he definitely knows that he helped them get to the promised land there. So hopefully he can help keep them going to the promised land. And if you follow the Tigers on social media, you've probably already seen him there too. So shout out to Josh for speaking with Jack. Now, we want to hear from you about your Tigers fandom. The number is 313-577-1019. Now, let's go to the phone lines. We have Babs in Ann Arbor. What's your best Tigers memory?
Hi.
Hey, Babs.
This was at the old stadium in the run-up to the World Series, and I happened to be at the game with John Sinclair. Actually, I was with my husband, who played in the band The Urbations, again, way back. But John was their manager at this time. So there were quite a few of us there, and we were serious about the game, and we kept score in the programs. And so we always thought those beach balls that got thrown around the bleachers, which was where we sat, of course, were kind of frivolous. And one time, my husband, the beach ball went to him, and he poked it and exploded it, so it wasn't anymore. And all of the bleachers started yelling at him, F you, F you. And it was really loud. And but John Sinclair, for anybody who knew him, was a really big guy. And he just stood up next to my husband in his full height and just sort of stared around at everybody. And the bleachers sat down. They quieted again. And it was very funny. So he didn't want anything bad to happen to his tenor sax player.
Yes.
So anyway, love your show. Love thinking about great times with the Tigers again. And I'll never forget that memory.
That is a great memory. Thank you so much for calling us this morning, Babs. That's Robin. I'm thinking about that. Like, he stood up and he looked around like, "Come at me, bro.
Yeah,
come at me, bro."
Running defense.
Yeah.
Running it hard. That's great.
Now we got Johnny and Warren. Hey, Johnny, welcome to the Metro. What's your best Tigers memory?
Hey, good morning, Tia and Rob. It was a pleasure meeting you last year, Tia.
Yes.
And it was pleasure seeing all you guys at the party 2 weeks ago at the Majestic.
Yes.
I have 3 quick memories.
Okay.
The first time I was 8 years old, I was at a Baptist youth ministry group. I got to meet Ernie Harwell. And when I met Ernie Harwell, he signed my baseball mitt. And I said, I enjoy watching you on TV. That's an Ernie Harwell memory. The first baseball game I went to was at Tiger Stadium. My dad took me during the Empire Strike. They had an Empire Strike back in the early 80s. And that was my first game. And then when the Tiger Stadium was shutting down, getting ready to close, I got to hang out with former police chief Ike McKinnon at the Tiger Stadium. So those are my 3 quick memories.
And Johnny and Warren, did we see you at the clothing store when we did the live broadcast?
Yes, I did.
Yes, Johnny, nice to speak with you and chat with you and see you again at the event last week. And thank you so much for calling us this afternoon.
And one last quick thing. I was short high school credits from CAS. I went back to high school last summer, and I got my diploma.
Congratulations,
Johnny. Wow. We're clapping for you over here.
We are. Thanks for sharing that with us.
We're just about halfway through our broadcast, more than that actually, and it's overdue. It's time for Tia and me to take a breather and stretch because after all, no baseball game is complete without the 7th inning stretch and thousands of fans joining together to sing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Tia's about to give us her rendition in a minute here. The song was written in 1908 by Jack Norworth and Albert Von Tisler, 2 guys who had never seen a baseball game, and they wouldn't attend one for another couple decades. While the song was first played at a game in 1934, then Chicago White Sox announcer Harry Carey started the sing-along in 1976.
Is it my time? Is it my time to get ready to sing?
No,
I'm
not
kidding.
yet.
From 1972 to 1982, you could hear Dan Greer playing the organ at Tiger Stadium. Dan died in 2023, and he was the only organist to play for the Tigers, the Red Wings, and the Pistons in one season. He was busy. While Greer tested some of Ernie Harwell's original tunes on the crown, he was forbidden from playing Three Blind Mice after controversial calls from the umpires. Interesting. Coming up, our closers getting warmed up in the bullpen as we speak. Stay right there with us as we get ready for Shawn Windsor.
Here's Dan Greer playing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. I need a hot dog and a beer and some popcorn.
God, you took the words out of my mouth.
Welcome back to the Metro. I'm Robin Vincent.
And I'm Tia Graham, and we're going to get hot dogs and popcorn. And I think you and I, you know what? We should broadcast from opening day. We should do that.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I think we should do that.
Right.
The
Get to work, producers.
I mean, get to work, Sam, Jack, David. Come on. We got to get this going. The Detroit Tigers, they did make an improbable playoff run after struggling through much of the 2024 season. And the team suited up for the start of spring training over this past weekend. It'll be a good opportunity to evaluate the talent that will be on the roster this season, particularly for some of the team's off-season additions.
Shawn Windsor is a sports columnist for the Detroit Free Press. He's also the co-host of the Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn Podcast. He joins us now to give us a preview of the Tigers 2025 season. Shawn, welcome to the Metro.
Oh, it's good to be with you guys. I can't believe we're talking baseball already.
I mean, it's going to be 50 degrees today, so it feels more appropriate than I thought it would earlier, like a couple days ago when it was about 20 degrees. Shawn, let's start with the end of last season. The Tigers weren't a strong team until the end of this season. That's when they made that impressive run into the playoffs. What fueled their performance near the end there?
Lots of things. You're right. It's crazy to think back. I was just looking at the numbers recently. They were 8 games below 500 in early August. I can't remember the exact date. 8 games below 500, and then finished the season, I want to say 31-13 or some ridiculous number to get the wild card spot, to finish 6 games over 500. No, 10 games over 500. I think they won 86 games. That's one of the more historic turnarounds in modern history in baseball, and to do it without real superstar power. I mean, obviously they've got a superstar pitcher, Cy Young winner, and Terry Skubal, but to do it without all these big bats and kind of a thin rotation and the starting rotation after Skubal, the pitching chaos, as their manager A.J. Hinch described, using bullpen guys. Just there was a little bit of something that's unexplainable going on, right? It's just one of those things in sports that really resonated, and it's hard to maintain that, but to watch a team that late in the season sort of figure it out and then get on whatever magic beans they were on, that was something.
Yeah, I mean, it has me thinking about the word magic here, because you're talking about something that feels a little inexplicable, and sometimes a team just they're able to vibe and do something that is really unexpected. How would you grade the team's off season? Did they make the necessary moves to hopefully make another playoff run?
Well, that's a good question. Obviously, they were trying to go. They were trying to get third baseman Alec Bregman from the Houston Astros, and that did not end up happening. He signed with the Boston Red Sox, and I know a lot of fans were probably hoping for him. He's somebody with a really good track record in the regular season and the postseason. Other than that, their moves were they signed Alex Cobb as a starting pitcher, but he's going to be out for a bit, probably at least another month. Probably a month into the season with a hip injury, and then they got a second baseman from the Yankees in Gleyber Torres. But that's more or less it. They're kind of relying on some of the young guys to take a step, both positionally and in the starting rotation, and that's where the unknown is a little bit. Tigers fans would love for the team to open up the checkbook, so to speak. Not that we have checkbooks anymore, and go out and get big names, but I think the organization still wants to lean into their young guys in the developmental program and see if they can build on what they did last year.
Shawn, the real question is, can the moment of last season's playoff push somehow be carried into this upcoming season?
Well, that's an interesting thought. Jim Leland, who managed the Tigers forever, used to talk about how baseball was the one sport there wasn't really any momentum. I don't know if I agreed with that. Of course, he knows a lot more about the game than I do, but he used to always say momentum in baseball is the next day's starting pitcher, right? And how good he may be or what kind of day he may have. But I want to posit this, because we're talking about, I can't believe it's spring training here already. And yes, it's going to be 50 and the sun looks like it's out a little bit today. But how about this for a theory? There's some kind of vibe going on in our city and area right now with all these teams. So normally people love talking about the Tigers this time of the year, at least for the last decade, because the Wings and the Pistons haven't been much. But both of those teams, I mean, the Pistons have won 6 in a row. The Red Wings were on a winning streak before the break. They won again yesterday or last night in overtime, and both look like they're going to get into the playoffs for the first time in forever. The Lions are doing what they're doing, so maybe there's something a little bit larger going on right now, and the Tigers are just going to keep being plugged into that.
Oof.
How about that?
I think we all like the sound of that our teams are feeding off the energy in the city. They're feeding off of the revival of the city and everything that's going on here. I think that's something that we can all wrap our arms around. You're listening to the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent.
And I'm Tia Graham. We are talking about the upcoming 2025 Tiger season with sports columnist Shawn Windsor. Now, Shawn, you were just talking a little bit about this young team, just seeing a continuation of last year. I just want to talk a little bit about the continuation of last year's pitching rotation and talking a little bit more about what we're going to see or what you expect to see in terms of this pitching rotation. We did see a few additional Tigers pitchers added to the lineup. So can we just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I guess I should have mentioned earlier when I was speaking of pitching and speaking of off-season additions, it's just because he pitched here the year before last, and Jack Flaherty, who'll probably be their number 2 starter. He went off to the Dodgers late in the year before, and he's back. So obviously, you start with Skubal, as good a pitcher as there is in baseball, and then you have Jack Flaherty. Then Reese Olson, I think, who showed a lot last year. He was the only other starter in the playoffs, which is really crazy when you think about it, because they beat the Astros and took the Cleveland Guardians to 5 games. And then the young guys, well, maybe not young guys, but one young guy, Jackson Jobe, who showed some promise. They're relying on him maybe in that 4th spot. And then the 5th spot, I think at this point, with Alex Cobb out for a while, I think that's kind of up for grabs. I know they're looking at Matt Manning in spring training. Casey Mize, a former number 1 overall draft pick. He has at least showed a little bit. He's only thrown he started the other day. I can't remember if it was against Philly or I kind of it all blends together. But he's looking a little bit better. So Kenta Maeda, who struggled last year, who's thrown a little bit better so far. Look, it's always so much hope in spring training, right? So that 5th spot's going to be interesting and up for grabs for a while. But I think the rotation, at least the top 3 in particular, look really, really good. And if Jobe is who they think he can be, the top 4, they're going to be as good as anybody in baseball.
And briefly here, because we're getting down to the wire, last season, the team's first winning season under manager AJ, that was the first winning season under AJ Hinch. Can you talk a little bit about that continuation as well? And do we see this young team melting and meshing together a little bit better with AJ Hinch? And do we see something starting to brew here?
I think so. I think he's one of the best managers in the game. I think we saw that last year. He and the pitching coach, Chris Federman, is it's a pretty great combo. Hinch is willing to try, and first of all, his ability to be tough, but also be kind of a player's manager. He's a great communicator, and he's just an interesting sinker. And we saw that in the run last year, in the way that he managed having one starting pitcher, and how unusual that is, right? Just the moving the positional players around, and they all bought in. And he talked about this at the playoff run last year, that nobody was really worried about their contract at that point. And that's going to be the thing, right? Mm-hmm. Can you say, all right, I'm going to play whatever role, I'm going to go to the park, and yes, I'm not going to know exactly when I'm going to play, what inning I might get called in, what inning I might have to pinch hit, whatever. That's okay. I'm going to do what the management thinks is best. By management, I mean Hinch. And that was part of the magic last year. Does that work long term? Because guys want to get paid, they want to be able to show numbers and consistency and all that. That's a good question. So we'll see if that part can roll over into this spring and summer.
Which is just, I love that you and Robin talked about it a little bit earlier, but you're seeing positivity in the Pistons once again. It's the first time we've seen positive light for the Pistons in a long while. Same thing with the Lions, of course, and then the Red Wings are starting to show a little life as well. So just starting to see these teams kind of put together, these makeshift teams that turn out to be really, really great teams, have been amazing to follow along with. But fans are looking for ways to follow along as well. So we do have Tigers games that were blacked out caused by contract disputes between Comcast and Diamond Sports Group last year. What do we know about how fans are going to be able to watch the Tigers this year?
Well, they're going to be on they've changed names so many times. It was Bally Sports. It's now FanDuel.
Yeah.
It's now FanDuel, and you can buy directly from them, download the app and stream on your phone or your laptop, or if you still have a desktop at home, maybe an iPad for some of us who are a little bit older. But I know so few have cable these days, but Xfinity, for example, they have FanDuel, and so there are ways to do it, but it's not like turn on pass in the old days, that's for sure.
Yeah, Shawn. Well, we're going to have you on for sure as soon as this season gets underway. Shawn Windsor is a sports columnist for the Detroit Free Press and the co-host of the Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn Podcast. As always, talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
This is WDET-FM, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation.